Okay, I'm Graham from the Tri-Coaching Partnership. This is Peter Harvey. Peter, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, Graham. Thank you for the opportunity. Nice to see that you're doing okay down there. Where did I start? I left school when I was about 15. Went to work for a little local company, which was called the Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Company, funny enough. You would probably know that better as 3M in these days. You had to do that for a year before you started serving your time. I then became a motor mechanic, served my time as a motor mechanic. Million and one reasons why that wasn't going to be my kit for the rest of my life. I then went on to driving buses, trucks, all sorts of other little things, and eventually became a transport manager for a company you may remember as Henderson Kenton Furnishings, or maybe even Queensway, before I decided to move on to pastures new.
Okay, and those pastures new?
Well, that's when I decided to become a driving instructor. That was way back in 1978, June, I think. So 42 years ago this year. Quite lucky. Well, I was very lucky at the time. I didn't realise it, but I passed everything on the first attempt. And before I knew it, within 3 months, I was a driving instructor. I was out working for BSM and teaching people in the real big wide world. I have to say, at that time, BSM was a very good way, although it was teaching by rote mainly, which is not ideal these days, especially with the banner behind you. But it was a good way of learning your basic skills and where to start. Passed my exams down there, get sent back to the local office in Paisley. Before I knew it, I was running about in a Triumph Toledo and doing something in the region of 60 hours a week as a trainee instructor.
Wow.
A lot.
Wow. Oh, you must be rich then, 60 hours a week.
Yeah. Well, BSM did well out of the deal.
Yeah, there's a nickname for what BSM stands for, but we won't go there.
No, it's better not to.
No. So, I mean, I don't know. Were you just teaching learners? Did you go on to do anything else?
Yeah. I started off just teaching learners, and then as time went on, I went out as we did in those days. The days of big shops running driving schools were coming to an end very quickly, and it was decided that we could pick up at the door. In those days, there was a lot of piggybacking. You know, pick up one pupil, drop them off with the other one in the car. Anyway, we decided to go out on my own, give it a try, and see how it went. And as they say, the rest is history. As time went on, I realised there was I did all sorts of training. I taught the gas board, taught the electricity board, did all those kind of things. But eventually there came a time where I thought there's a need for training instructors. Branched into that. Part of it to do with lack of work on one side, and I decided I should leave the door open, you know, have a little bit of more than one pie, if you like, you know, so there's more segments in the pie, which kept the wolf away from the door. And before I knew it, I was teaching people to be driving instructors quite a lot of my time. A lot of fleet work as well, did all that sort of thing as well on the way along.
Okay. And of course, you know, how did you get involved with the MSA, the Motor Schools Association? What's that?
Well, that was probably about a year after I became a driving instructor. There was a little local group called the Paisley and District Driving Instructors get set up at the time with a couple called Matt and Betty Blair, who, for those who have been in the industry for a long while, would know Matt and Betty really well. Great ambassadors of the industry, and encouraged me to come along to a meeting. Anyway, I came along to the meeting, and I think really what happened was I stood where I was when everybody else stepped back when they asked for somebody on the committee. Before I knew it, I was on the committee of this local group. Eventually get nominated to be on the committee of the Scottish region of the Motor Schools Association, as it was in those days. Then became the deputy chairman, then became the chairman, And then 25 years ago, I became the national chairman of the association. All voted in. You know how it works. You've been at AGMs before.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what? Well, I suppose let's ask this question, because you've been involved with the MSA. What's your involvement with NASP, and can you tell us a little bit about NASP for those who don't know?
Okay, so NASP is the National Association Strategic Partnership. NASP was formed to try and have a voice for all instructors as much as possible, mainly done via 3 associations. So we have the ADI NJC, DIA, and ourselves, MSA GB. My involvement in that has been becoming more and more and more. And just as a little plug for NASP, I'd like to say a big thank you to Carly from DIA and Lynn from ADI NJC, especially Lynn just now, because there's a lot of work, a lot of extra work at NASP trying to get some information from DVSA and pass it on to all other members, and in fact driving instructors. We run on a rotational basis. We take the chair for 6 months. Lynn is in the chair just now. Carly will take over at the end of this month. She'll do 6 months to the end of the year, and then I'll take over the next 6 months. And we do it like that, so that the work's shared equally amongst all 3 of us. And although I say that, you know, we work very closely together, and all the information that we have, and passing it on to other people, and to put out the reports that you'll have seen now and again.
Yeah.
If I was to say that we always agreed on everything we do, that wouldn't be, you know, that wouldn't be right. But we always come to a majority agreement before we put out any statements, before we release them. We try to make them as clear as they can possibly be. Sometimes that's really quite difficult, because wording gets misunderstood by people one way or another.
Yes.
The whole aim is to try and make the industry, or the profession, if you like, better for everybody. Obviously, there'll be some people that don't like some of the ideas, but that's the way it is in life. You know, you're not going to please everyone all the time.
No, absolutely. I suppose I'm going to take you back a little bit actually now, because I've got a bit of background about you. I suppose, what's your greatest success, do you believe, in the industry for you?
And well, greatest success would have to be 3 children and 6 grandchildren. But
yeah,
in the industry, there's a couple of things. One that absolutely sticks out. I was fortunate enough to be awarded the MBE for my contribution to road safety and driver education. To get that award at that time, and at any time really, for an ordinary working driving instructor, because that's what I am, that's how I earn a living, I was just absolutely gobsmacked. You never know how it came about, who recommended it, but that was a really big point. Lots of other little things that have happened in life as we go along, you know, changes that have went along in the industry that make me quite pleased. Audit, you know, being involved in the audit register and you know, getting it put together, that had a big impact. And unfortunately, it's not had the impact now that we had hoped that it would. But maybe in the next year or so, if COVID hadn't come along, I think we've probably seen bigger changes via audit. And I hate to say the word compulsory, but you never know. You know,
yeah.
You know, it's going to get everybody involved.
I feel that I agree with you. I don't like the word compulsory either, but I think it could be necessary.
Yeah, I think it may be, you know, something that if we can find a way of getting more people to do it, to see the advantage of being involved in it, not just for actually training instructors, but for learning how to be the trainer yourself. You know, there are loads of good trainers out there that could well be in audit and have the kudos of being in audit at the same time. It's just a matter of changing the attitude, mainly, I think, of some of the people. And of course, there's bad apples in everything that we do. You know, it doesn't matter how hard you try. As I said before, you're not going to please everyone.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I like that word actually you just used, kudos, because that's what audit needs.
Yeah, that's what it needs. It needs something to push it up a little bit and make people want to be back in it again. We went through a spell and you know the history, but we went through a spell where it looked to some people that being in orbit was not going to do you any favours. And hopefully, touching wood, I think we're past that now.
Okay, good. So you mentioned audit. What's your feelings about continued professional development amongst your members and amongst driving instructors as a whole?
My feelings about CPD are really that, again, it's that compulsory word. We almost had CPD, and you've been at the industry long enough, Graham, to know that we almost had CPD almost on the same lines as CPC for the lorries and the buses, etc., where it was going to be 7 hours over a year, over a 5-year period. They were looking at extending the badge, the certificate for your ADI to be over 5 years and make the CPC or CPD over that period of time. But for whatever reason, and that, the reasons never became clear to me, the minister of the day decided that he didn't want to do it, didn't see any real need, which I think is a great shame, because I think, careful how I say this, but I think newer and younger ADIs or even PDIs are really surprised when they come into this industry and don't have any, and they've come from somewhere else where they are continually doing CPC, they're continually being updated in whatever job they do, and then all of a sudden they realize, and in here there's none, and and there is, if they want to go and do it themselves. And my advice to every instructor, member or not member, would be keep yourself up to date. There are loads of good quality training out there, not an awful lot of money in a lot of cases, that can help you understand what you're going to do and help you through the rest of your training career, but most importantly help you towards your, if you're working towards your Part 3 or standards check. And how the standards check will look in the future, we can maybe discuss a little bit later on.
Okay. Oh yeah, I'll ask you that. Let me just make a. I'll make a note actually, because I'm interested.
I'm sure you will.
So, look, you're chairman of the MSA, and I'd like to invite you to do a sales pitch for the MSA. And if you were going to do that, what would you say to the people who would watch this?
Well, you're not going to believe this, but I'm not very good at this. I'm not very good at that type of selling. But what does the MSA do? Anyone who's ever come along to a meeting and seen me presenting, they'll know that usually I finish it up by saying, if you're not in the MSA, get yourself into something. Join the DIA, join the ADI, NJC if you like. Do whatever you want to do. But if you're going to influence this profession, you have to be in it.
Yeah.
We specialise in representation for members, talking direct to government departments, to DVSA, DFT, all of those. We supply all sorts of services to members. In fact, Try Coaching are one of them that offer a reduced rate for MSA members to be involved. There are a lot more like them. We offer support, and during this last few months, we've been offering a lot more support to lots of instructors. Very often will email in, and if possible, I try to, rather than just reply to the email, I usually, if I have a phone number, I'll give them a ring. Very often, if they have a chat, they can feel a bit better about how things are going. It's not them that's suffering all the time. We have area reps all over the country. We're divided up at the moment up into 9 different areas. We are looking at whether that's the best way to do things or not, but at the moment, that's the way it is. And basically, we're always here to help. Right? If we can help, and right now, people are going to love me for saying this, but I don't really ask people when they phone up if they're a current member or not. If they need help, they need help. And there's enough bad things going on out there just now. If we can help, or any of my team can help, we'll do our best to do that.
Yeah, I think I think the same here. The same here, Peter. We offer support as best we can, and we say to people, look, the same as you. You've got to be in a group. You can't be a lone voice.
These days, in the good old days, I think you could probably get by, but things are changing on a daily basis now, never mind weekly or monthly. And one of the biggest problems is that people hear all sorts of stories from various social media.
Yeah.
And, well, I would call it fake news, a lot of it, right? And you know, I'm not wonderful at that. I stay out of a lot of these, because if you get involved in them, it doesn't matter what you say, and you're never going to be the good guy or the bad guy. You know, you're always, you know, you can't please everybody. But what I would, you know, for not an awful lot of money in a year, and I know just now that's difficult, but they can be up to date. They can have newsletters on a weekly basis. And sometimes, like today, emails on a daily basis telling them about the changes to the theory test. Now, we shouldn't be doing that. That should be done a long time before this, but it was, and it happened today. But we're trying to get out as quick as we can.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, that communication, being evidence-based, being factual. When I see social media, the problem that I have is that it's a lot of the reports are not evidence-based and they're not factual.
And I think a lot of that's to do with many factors, but people are just desperate for information. So, of course, very often people just accept what they hear, and then maybe phone somebody like me up or some other association or yourself, and then discover that what they hear is not really what's going to happen. And that's how I've, you know, I'm a terrible one for not giving people false hope. You know, if it's not correct or it's not factual, don't say it in the first place.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, unless someone is asked for, look, give me an opinion.
Oh yeah, that's different. Yeah, that's a different story. But don't build people's hopes up with something that you're pretty sure is not going to happen.
Yeah, I call it fog. Fact, opinion, or guess.
Yes, that's quite good. I'll write that down, to be honest.
Yeah, fog. I've used it for a long time. What do you think the profession will look like when we do go back to work?
I think it'll look very different from what it does now, Graham. I think we have to be we're all fairly well educated people, but you're doing this job. I think we have to accept the fact that teaching people to drive the way we used to do it won't be like that anymore. I think we'll have to change the way we deal with people. I think we'll have to think very carefully about PPE and all the safety things that go with it. I think we also need to think about how driving testing might be different as well. And I'm not giving any information away here because I think, you know, I've been told this, but it seems to me that if social distancing stays the way it is at 2 metres, knowing most test centres in the country, then DVSA must be in a situation that they can't have all those examiners in that building at the same time. It just wouldn't work. So what's that going to mean to you and I as driving instructors? I would suggest it's going to mean probably less tests a day. May not be, but I would suggest that would be one way of doing it, because you need more time in between them. I would suggest there's probably going to be less examiners at the centre. I'm not sure how it will work as far as the good old days of being able to go in and go to the toilet and all of that kind of stuff at the beginning when they do get back.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying anything because I know it. I'm just looking at how I run at my business and how we've had to adapt. I think we will, a lot of things are going to be different at the test centre. But they're not going to be different from when I started, but they are. I think they may have to go backwards before they can go forward again.
Yeah, I'm concerned myself about ADIs having a viable business. You know,
yes.
if we look at the lesson pricing that we have currently, I can't see it sustainable as a business.
I think my concern would be that most instructors may think, I'm not going to say would think, but may think they can continue doing whatever amount of lessons a day. You know, if they usually do 3 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon, or whatever it might be, that's their business. But I think they have to consider the downtime in the middle that will be there now. I think they have to cover the cost of that from someplace. Their expenses will probably be higher because they may have to offer or consider offering PPE to people that are going to take lessons from them. So they might want to offer, you know, gloves of some kind. They may want to offer a face mask. They may not. They may want them to bring their own. That's entirely up to them. They are certainly going to have hand sanitizer, wipes, all those kind of things. So the costs of being a driving instructor are going to increase with less, in my view, less hours a day to be able to do them, because you're still going to need time to disinfect the car in between lessons. My thoughts at the beginning would be, when we do eventually get a date to start back, maybe concentrate only on people who have tests booked for sure, and maybe consider doing instead of an hour, do an hour and a half with those people, so that you cut down your limit in the middle. Like you only need to clean the car once. Those kind of things. But I think if people can, and there will be a fear about that, but maybe they have to consider, if I need to spend extra and I need to do less, I need to make that up in the cost of the lesson somehow. I need to put my price up a little bit. And of course, there will be peoples out there that just can't afford to take driving lessons at the beginning. So it'll be much easier for you to, once you get in contact with these people. The other thing I would be suggesting to people just now is keep in touch with your pupils. Don't leave them hanging. What we tend to do is get in touch with them about once a week, once every 10 days. Just say, nothing new, keep in touch. And most people that I've asked to do that seem to think that's quite a good way,
Yeah, no, I think
happen as well then.
I think staying in touch with your clients is essential. And I think building a client database now is the sensible thing to do.
My suggestion, sorry, Graham, I didn't mean to cut you off. My suggestion now would be get in touch with your pupils. We don't know when the tests are going to be, but there's no reason why you can't be saying, right, we would hope that if what has been suggested, that we get to maybe start back in England anyway, it won't be in Wales or Scotland round about the beginning of July. Now's the time to start preparing yourself for that. And the one thing that I do know by speaking to members a lot is very few have taken advantage of this time to be doing something about getting all their PPE sorted out, getting the car ready and organised. At the end of the day, it's been a long time, but when we do go back to work, it'll happen fairly quickly. There won't be a lot of time. And if everyone of all those, whatever it is these days, 35,000 driving instructors trying to look for PPE at the one time, they ain't going to get it. It's not going to happen. So be well organised, start preparing now. And if it turns out it's a little bit later than that, get back, or the tests are later than that, at least you're prepared. You're ready to go.
Okay. If we take COVID to one side for the moment, what do you see the role of driving instructors in road safety in the future? Because I think we have an important part to play.
Well, I believe, because I've been involved in the industry for a long time, I believe that driving instructors are a major contribution to road safety. I don't think driving instructors in general get enough credit for the good work that we do. I think we're an easy target to get abused by the public, by all sorts of people, when people don't really think about what we do to make the roads safer and better. We're not helped by other vehicles round about us sometimes, I accept that. I kind of felt, or have felt for a long time, driving instructors should be given a bit more responsibility on their own. Mainly because if we're really interested in what we do out on the road and how good a driver a person is, let's take all these manoeuvres away from the test. Let's get rid of them altogether. Give the driving instructor the kudos, again, if you like, to sign off on manoeuvres and say that they've been done. I would still always say that the DVSA should have the right to test a manoeuvre on the odd occasion, especially if they feel as if, I don't think this is getting taught, or something's not right, or something like that. And then if it turned out that the instructor maybe wasn't doing what they were supposed to be doing when they were signing off, well, then you could do something about that at a later date. But to give people time to actually concentrate on what they're supposed to be doing. Even with the new manoeuvres, as well as I do, people worry far too much about them, and they spend far too much time in their driving plan worrying about what's going to happen next. And sometimes they reverse into a parking bay in a test centre car park, and they've already felt as if they've failed before they kick off. You know, I just don't think it's a great way to start off.
No, would be nice to, you know, there's always these things about exams and that settling in period, you know, and lots of us need to just feel settled in, and it's something that doesn't always happen on tests, you know.
No, it doesn't. And, you know, the settle-in period these days, you know, when we do go back, I mean, one thing I do know, instructors won't be allowed in the car, that's for sure. They won't be allowed to be there. They won't be allowed to be MD in it. They won't be allowed to be involved in the debrief at the end. So it'll all feel a bit strange to especially people that have sat the test before. Anybody who hasn't sat it before, it's like when they brought in the iPads, there was a lot of concern about how that would work. A new person learning to drive, it made no difference to them because they'd never seen it anyway. That's just the way it was done at the time. It's just, you know, it's evolution. We have to get better at things as we go along. But, you know, my hope that we would, you know, we spend more time teaching people to do what we want them to do, or coaching them, whichever it is you're going to be doing, whatever form of training that you use to make, you know, you pull out of your bag of spanners, if you like, to make people good at it. I just don't think instructors get enough credit for the good work that they do in a lot of cases.
No, absolutely. I think, like a lot of industries, change has been difficult for us. We never, we'll say never is not a good word, but we struggle to embrace change when change comes along.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. You know, sometimes it's kicking and screaming on the way along, and an ideal scenario of that would be when the standards check changed. You know, people, all of a sudden it happened. We knew it was going to happen, but a lot of people just kind of buried their head in the sand and said, oh, well, it won't make any difference. And then, of course, it was geared to see how you actually do a driving lesson on a given day or a given time. And of course, people suffered from that a lot at the beginning. And my advice there, of course, is take the training before you take the test. Yeah. You wouldn't expect a learner driver to sit the test without taking any training, although we know some do. But if you're a driving instructor, don't be too hard on yourself. You know, don't be so kind of self-centered that you think, well, I know it all, because we don't. None of us know it all. We all learn every day, and learn from other people as you go along. And a couple of hours training can often make a huge difference in how you perform on the day, even if it's only being used to someone else here helping you. Right, you know, someone else in the car. You don't often do that, or we don't often do that as instructors.
So, Peter, you know, both me and you remember the check test, and now we have the standards check. What's your preference?
You're going to hate me for this. I prefer the standards check.
Oh.
I was never very keen on the check test. I did well in my grades in the check test, but I always felt as if it was orchestrated. You know, even for me, you know, you kind of, no matter who you are, anybody who says, well, I just did everything the way I always do it, I'm sure you did as near as you could. I find with the standards check, it's a bit easier to do that. You know, you can plan out your lesson, know what you want to do. How that's going to look in the future, I'm sure we'll have to think about with all this, you know, people in a car, will they have to change the way they do standards checks? That'll all come out after we get tested back out again, I'm sure. But for me, I prefer it. I quite like it. I think it, you know, I feel as if I've got more control of what's going to happen. And it's very easy if something goes wrong just to pull the plug and say, right, let's go back to basics, start again, and then go on with what we have to do. The thing that's important, you know, you teach all the time. You know, people seem to have this idea that if something goes wrong in the standards check, you should just ignore it and try and fix it next week. That's not what you'd normally do. You know, let you fix it as you go along.
Okay. I suppose I want to bring you back because we were going forward in the future, but I want to just take you back to a couple of questions I've got for you. What's impacted you most in your career? What's been the biggest impact? COVID-19's had a big impact, that's for sure. But I'm fortunate I'm still here to talk about it, and unfortunately, as we know, there have been a huge amount of people who haven't. That's had a huge impact. Most of the things that have impacted me, and certainly as a business,
The financial crash of, what was it now, 12 years ago?
Yeah,
When things all fell
2008.
apart. Yeah, was it? Yeah, 2008. Yeah, I think it is 12 years ago. That had a huge impact on lots of private instructors, or mainly because of things like pensions. You know, a lot of money was wiped off everybody's pension at that time, and to get it back again. Impact there was that people couldn't afford to take driving lessons at all. So you had to diversify into other things. So it's good for people to be not, you know, don't just stay being a driving instructor. Be diversify, do other things, do advanced, what they call the driver improvement type courses, you know, that kind of thing. Some of the IAM, ROSPA places like that are doing specialised courses on teaching older drivers, some newer drivers. Get yourself involved in more things. Diversify. Don't just stick at being a learner. They're the main kind of things that have affected me over the years, where you've learned, right, okay, I can't do that just now, but I can do some of that instead. Nothing much else has had a big impact, really.
And I suppose you just made me think then that, of course, if you're going to diversify, you probably need a greater skill set. And what happens is we wait until something happens before we develop that skill set, rather than continually ongoing development. You know, it doesn't happen.
I think that's because people always feel as if, for whatever reason, they're not. I think it's down to CPD, actually, to be honest, because if you've come from another industry where you're involved in CPD, you kind of naturally progress through getting better into other jobs. When we're in this, you know, little secular society where we're at 1-to-1 in a motor car, I can imagine how it would be difficult for some people to think, how am I ever going to get out of this world? So unfortunately, you need some good instructors, rather than thinking about, I'm going to spend a lot of money, diversify, think about where it can go. You know, go to your association, go to any place that you think you can get advice. There's lots of good advice, you know, even in the internet. Think about how you're going to put your way forward, and think about what you think. Maybe, do you know what? Maybe I could do that. Maybe I could do a bit of advance. Maybe I could do that. But remember to consider, you have to take the training. You're not going to be able to do it just by jumping out of a car after teaching learners. That might make you very good at teaching learners. But for those of you who have done it, getting out in a fleet situation with somebody that's been driving for 30 years, and I won't tell you the person's name, but I did a fleet assessment with somebody from quite a big newspaper a good few years ago now, and I was asked to do it. We get to the end there, and I was told them that unfortunately hadn't been successful. And he said to me, I've been driving for 30 years and I've never had an accident. The only thing I said to him, which seemed to upset him, was, I just said, how many have you caused? Right? And he stamped out the car. He was supposed to do a big write-up and all sorts of things, wouldn't do it. Anyway, about a week later, the guy did swallow his pride. He got in touch with us, in those days he phoned us up, said, listen, I'm really sorry, you're dead right. Can we do this again? And I'll have another think about it. And he did, and he totally improved by the next time round. So sometimes you just have to build it, and you know, there are going to be brick walls there. Just find a way of getting over it. Don't try to get through it, just go over it.
Okay. What still inspires you, or what has inspired you?
Well, I suppose things that inspire me, and you know, some people think this is mad. Things that inspire me are, sometimes learner drivers inspire me. Sometimes, a lot of times, PDIs inspire me, because I see how hard they're trying, I see how much effort they're putting into it. Driving instructors, when you're out helping to train them, when they've asked and said, right, you know, can I get a bit of training here? And I think if any of us, if we're honest, if we're trainers, learn a lot from PDIs and other ADIs. You learn some words, phrases, ways of dealing with things that you might never have done before. So they're the type of things that inspire me. I'm quite easily inspired, to be honest. But I don't have any big things that, you know, certainly not by politicians just now, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's another journey, another conversation. Let's change it around. Let's make it a bit more light-hearted. Well, what car do you drive?
Right, I've got two cars at the moment. I have a Vauxhall Corsa 1.4 SE, 5-door. They're always 5-door because of the training that we do for other ADIs as well. And I've bought for my sons an automatic. It's a Fiesta 1 litre EcoBoost Active, I think it's called. Fiesta Active. It's a lovely looking little car, and it does the job. I kind of settled on it when I've never really been into Fords, to be honest. I've had, in the Corsas or in the Vauxhalls, I've had, I think, 18 of them over the years. Bought a Renault once, that was, I'll never do that again. But I started off, funny enough, after I left BSM with Escorts, Mark II Escorts. The good old days when you had to take the rotor arm out, clean it in the morning and put it back in again and hope the thing would start. Yes. They're good cars, I have to say. They both do well as far as economy. Pupils love them. If I had a favourite to go anywhere, I'd have to say I'd take the automatic. Can't believe they still drives about in manual cars these days.
No, absolutely. I switched to automatic. Mind you, I find them complicated. If I put it in manual mode, he's got 8 gears going forward.
Well, this Fiesta, I've got paddle gear changes and all sorts of things. And I mean, I'm sure if I read the manual enough, I could make a cup of tea with the thing. It does everything else but that. But they're well equipped motor cars. The downside of all of that is it's electronics and things can go wrong. One of the things that I've always done with cars is make sure they're serviced properly when they should be done. That's
absolutely
the kind of downside of being a motor mechanic.
Yeah. But also, you've got to look after your tools, haven't you? Always.
Yeah, absolutely. That's your tool, and that's what it's worth. And however you decide to buy it or purchase it or whatever you do, just ask advice before you do it. Very often, associations can help you with that as well.
Okay, I've got a few more questions, but most of these are sort of just a bit of fun, Peter. If you could choose to be anywhere in the world right now, where would you be?
Well, that's easy. Orlando.
Orlando.
Orlando, yeah. I'll be there tomorrow if I could. We go there quite a lot. We hadn't been there until about, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago now. Not anywhere in America, but if we can, we go now, and it's great to be able to take the grandkids there as well if we can. Sometimes we sneak away and don't tell them at all. But I just like America. My wife and I both like America. Nice place, nice people, good service, all those kind of things. Yeah, if we had to make a second one, I'm sure Gene would pick Hawaii, mainly because of Elvis.
Okay, cool, good stuff. Okay, I suppose there is one question I have to ask. It's all right. I'm just going to get it out there, right? It's a standing joke one, but how do you think I rate as an interviewer? Well, we won't spend too much time on this.
And how do I think you rate as an interviewer? I could honestly put my hand in my heart and say you're the best one I've had today.
Okay, thank you. That's it. That's a good enough for me. We move on.
Yeah, your technique's very good. You handle the situation very well. You're not into putting in, give people a chance to finish. And that's really what matters. It's just about politeness more than anything else.
Okay. Have you got any lifelong dreams still? Anything that you want, industry or personal?
Not really, to be honest. We've been lucky. I've done most of the things that we want to do. My lifelong dream would be that I suppose driving instructors get a more kudos in the world. They are looked after better. They are treated better by the public because they're not always that. And sometimes deservedly so because they don't behave very well with the public. But I'd like to see them being more respected and given more credit for what they do and more trust to let them do more things to help improve road safety.
Okay. Now, the next question is interesting. How difficult a job do you think the DVSA has had during lockdown?
How difficult? Well, no matter what I say here, I'm going to be on the wrong side of somebody. If I said it to you this way, Graham, closing down an operation like the DVSA it's quite an easy thing to do, right? You know, you have to just say, right, as from tomorrow, nobody goes to work, close down all the offices. Getting them back up and running again, I just can't understand how difficult that would be. You know, all the health and safety that has to be done to ensure, and when you're not getting decisions from government to make life a bit easier for you, whether they're going to move the social distancing from 2 meters to 1.5 or 1, you've got to work your way around all of that. I don't think they've done themselves any favours, and as much as I think they could have been much more communicative with driving instructors right from the word go. We in NAS fought very hard to get the chief executive to write a letter to everybody, which he did. But in fairness to him, that took a long time. I say in fairness to him because he has, you know, just because you're the chief executive doesn't mean you can just send something out when you feel like it. He has to get approval from DFT, ministers, number 10, all that sort of carry on. But I'm sure it could be done quicker. Just recently we had a meeting with, a one-to-one meeting with the chief executive, and we suggested that he should write another letter to ADIs to tell them where we are just now. Right? Even if you can't tell them when we're going to start back testing, at least give them some idea why it's not easy to do that. What's the complications that holds all that back? And as I understand it, they are intending to do that.
Okay,
that's the intention.
Okay.
So I'm not going to say that they've had an easy job, but I think it's like the disease itself. I think we will all look back in the future and say this could have been handled in a different manner. And if it was to happen again, God forbid it does, I hope not. But I think we would all learn lessons from that.
Absolutely. Okay, I've got one final question for you, Peter. What message would you like to give to driving instructors right now, today, in the present moment?
Right now, be careful. Think seriously about what is in the future. How you're going to deal with that. I know this is going to sound a bit corny, but don't be afraid. Just think about how you can get your business up and running again. Most of you will have spent a long time building up a business. You know, there's no need to be throwing it away or worrying about it. You just need to stick by the guidelines. But that's the most important thing. Stick by the guidelines. There's lots of misinformation out there, as we said earlier, Graham, and people are desperate to grasp at anything. If you're not sure, ask. The rules are still the same just now. You're not supposed to be teaching people to drive unless you're teaching critical workers, which are not the same as key workers. I'm sure most people know now that a key worker may be someone who works in the supermarket. That doesn't mean they're a critical worker. If they worked at the other end of the supermarket where they were maybe helping to make deliveries and they wanted to put in extra delivery vans, that might make them a critical worker. But DVSA will decide that. You have to apply to find out. If you get accepted for the DVSA test, then as an instructor, providing you know it's safe and you're not going to take COVID home to any of your family, then you can consider going back out to do it. The big thing you need to be careful of now is that the police are getting a lot more keen on stopping driving instructors. They do stop driving instructors and they get a fine. They're duty bound to notify DVSA or the registrar that that has happened. Whether you could argue about that later or not, our job is to tell you what could happen. You know, what the driving tests in the future are going to look very much different from where they do just now. Driving lessons will look a bit different, but driving tests, as I said earlier, there could be all sorts of things that are going to change there. Not in the way that they test, but maybe in the way that we deal with getting people to the test centre. What we need to consider now is there any toilets around about the test centre if it so happened that you couldn't get into the toilet? Because your candidate more often than not wants to go. Is there some place you get a cup of tea or a drink of water or whatever it is, right? You know, whether the instructor needs to go or not, the candidate very often at the last minute, oh, Peter, I need to go to the loo. Of course they do. But maybe we need to think our routes out a bit more about where we could be able to do that. Because even places like McDonald's and all of these big organisations, there are other places you could buy burgers, of course. But as I understand it, they are not intending to leave toilets open to let people in and out. So really, my message would be safe. If you're not sure, don't be afraid to ask. we're here at the end of the phone or an email at any time at all. If me or anybody in the MSA can help, we're delighted to do that.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Peter. Thank you for being another one of my interviewees.
Pleasure.
I'm going to call it a halt there. So it's goodbye from me. And it's
and goodbye from me. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Peter.